Hi, my name is Jasmine Finnie, and today I'm going to discuss with you my project for EME 6946. My project was with Marion County Public Schools, and it was with a group of teachers called the Academy Teachers. So I'm going to discuss project alignment. I'm currently enrolled in the Masters of Education for Instructional Technology, and there were multiple of courses that really helped so that I could even actually take on this project. So EME 6054, which is Foundations of Instructional Technology, really helped me incorporate instructional technology processes into my training materials. EME 6607, Instructional Technology Planning and Change, also helped me with the project management part of it and my handouts. And I had a lot of handouts. EME 6609, which is Principles of Instructional Design. In that class, we worked on design documents. So this helped me create a design document, complete all of my analyses, my presentation, and my assessment material. EME 7676 was Advanced Instructional Design Theory. And this was a very wonderful class that really, you went really deep into theories that you can incorporate so that you can be successful in implementing presentations and actually designing what you need to design. So I did a little bit of research, or I remembered some things from the class where we research. So you have research-based theories, and I incorporated some of those strategies so that can lead to some solutions that I was trying to figure out when I was working on my project. And one that I really love is dual coding, and I incorporated that into my handouts, the text, the visual, and the verbal. EME 6429, which is Human Performance Improvement, which is a class that I recently completed, really went into procedures for completing tasks, and that really helped me with completing some of my tasks and going back and looking at some of the materials and things I learned in that class, and it helped me with my assessment materials as well. So now I'm going to discuss some project details. This project came to me from the lead instructional academy coach, and she's with Marion County Public Schools in the elementary setting. And so she really wanted me to focus on the academy teachers. And so the academy teachers are the teachers in certain schools that are considered Title I. They're low socioeconomic, and more than half of the kids are on free and reduced lunch. So there's a special program in these schools. In one school we focused on particular, which is called Denellen Elementary School. The teachers, they use additional curriculum for their students, and these students are chosen to be in this class because they were assessed and they're at the top of the bottom quartile, of the lowest quartile. And so these teachers use a lot of extra curriculum, and so they do need a lot of support because it's really hard for them to do the current curriculum and the additional curriculum. And so these teachers also have iPads in their rooms, and so for their students. And so we know it came to me that they were not using them properly. So I did some research and went in and found out why while I was working on my analyses and all that. So I wanted to determine how these teachers could take ownership of using the student iPads with or aligned to classroom curriculum. So that's how this project came about. So here's some of my proposal details. So a goal was to help teachers determine ways to use student iPads beneficially with curriculum through a professional learning community known as a PLC. Originally it was going to be a workshop, but it didn't work out that way, and we'll talk about that a little later in this presentation. But it worked out even better because now through a PLC, the teachers would take ownership of the activities instead of giving the material to them in a workshop. Some of the proposal details also include I had to determine how the teachers were currently using the iPads, and I did that through my analysis. And I had to develop and deliver a training to the summer school teachers on a professional learning community. They were a little familiar with it, but this really gave them a great refresher. And since they were going to be doing this, digging into this on their own, this would really help them. Assess learning and understanding of iPad curriculum alignment through the PLC, and that will be monitored through interactions in their PLC and classroom visits. That's how they're going to be assessing their learning. Some of my deliverables included creating, conducting surveys and interviews, and this gave me a bunch of information on how the teachers like to learn, how they were using their iPads, the reason behind not wanting to use the iPads. So it really gave me a lot of information conducting surveys. The design document, I found out the problem. I created instructional goals and did a context analysis and a learner analysis. I also created a presentation on PowerPoint to train the teachers on the PLC and created some teacher handouts to go along with that and gave them their initial iPad training materials. They were all have taken an iPad, how to use your iPad and resources for your iPad. I refreshed them with that same information that they received already, just so that they had it at their hands when they started their PLC. Create training surveys. So some surveys were created for after the training and during the training, and so that I could get immediate feedback was received. Create monitor and evaluation sheets. So ways that the PLC could be monitored and evaluated so that we know the success of it. Here is an example of what my PowerPoint was about. It was I created a professional learning community PowerPoint slideshow, and it included all the information that the teachers needed, and they had handouts that they had to use and follow along with it. Another was some of the handouts. I created about 11, 12 handouts so that the teachers had a hard copy of what they needed if they forgot something during the presentation, that they can follow along and go back and figure out and how to problem solve during certain things during their PLC. Another deliverable was the monitoring and evaluating. In the PLC, the teachers learned there's a beginning phase where they're working and planning together, and then a developing stage where they're experimenting with different strategies, of growing, and if they're growing to meet their goal, and then sustaining is if they're actually developing and re-evaluating, and they're actually growing and making progress towards incorporating the iPads in the classroom with the curriculum. So some of the challenges I face include time. Time is always a challenge, and it's just one of those things you have to just really manage. These teachers that I was working with were in summer school, so I had very little time, and so I had to really work around the clock to get everything done, late hours and everything. So, and it was very important not to get behind. So time was a challenge, because if I didn't get something complete one day, then I had to work double the next day. So time is just one of those things you really have to keep up with. Last minute plan change I had. So I was going to be doing a workshop, and then it ended up being some of the teachers that I was going to have in the class were pulled for another training. other training, so I wasn't unable to do that. So I had to go back and do research, and I came up with the PLC for a small group, and it worked out really well. So I ended up with less teachers. And not being able to provide the training myself, I wasn't able to go actually to the school and provide the training. There had to be another coach that was going to provide the training. So I had to really make sure everything was lined up, because she needed to make sure she knew every single step of what to do. So that was a big challenge for me. Plus, I like giving my own trainings, but it was a great experience planning a training for someone else. So some of the lessons I learned. Communication is key. Being in constant communication with your client is important, and multiple ways really helped. At first I was only communicating email. That wasn't working for us. So we started communicating in person, but with text messages, phone calls, and that really helped with communicating and being on the same page. Also, challenges come up that you cannot control. I had some staff changes, and I couldn't just let that stop my project and my progress. So I just had to go back and relook at my surveys and analyses and all of that material, and I was able to come up with a plan. So just because challenges come up that you can't control doesn't mean it stops you. You got to keep going. And time is important. There goes that time again. Once I had my challenges in there, I start planning ahead as much as possible. So it's really helpful. Thank you for listening to this presentation.